there to all you YouTube chess lovers, and thanks again for joining me, Stephen Sturgill, on my Chess TV channel here on YouTube. And today, once again, I couldn't resist. We're going to be taking a look again at the Sämisch attack in the King's Indian for white. And there's just too many good stratagems and tactics in the King's Indian for white. The Sämisch in particular is a phenomenal attacking system and opening. So today, let's look at this game here. And I will admit, Black played a little bit wonky, a little not sure exactly what they were going for. Don't have a name. They were a very strong opponent, and let's just see what happens. So d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6. These are all very standard moves, obviously, for both sides. And now, of course, f3, defining the Sämisch. And the idea simply is you are double protecting the e4 pawn and also prohibiting the knight, or the bishop for that matter, from coming to g4. Black castled, bishop e3, and I will tell you that while there are other opening moves here in this position, like bishop e2, knight e2, there's the rather crazy, wonky immediate g4, which is not a good move, but it's technically playable. I do not recommend that, obviously, right out of the opening. But in particular, these other moves like knight e2, for example, and bishop e2 here, they're not good. You're not going to lose by playing them, but they're not good moves. Bishop e3 in this position with the knight on f6, and black has no other pieces obviously developed, is advantageous for white, and white is already here enjoying a very, very mild but real advantage. You're not going to win because of it, but white looked a gift horse in the mouth. So from here, black moved his knight to h5, which is again a bit wonky, but I mean, maybe there are some weird ideas of maybe after a bishop out, knight c6 or knight probably d7 is better, and then maybe try something with f5 here, trying to undermine white. At some point, that might have been the idea. I don't know for sure. And here, now we are going to go knight g1 e2. Black here repositions the knight to f6. Queen d2, forming of the battery here, obviously hitting on h6, and pretty much forcing. If he can get this in the next move, it would force the bishops off, and because otherwise, if the black bishop goes to h8, then the rook is gone. Black moves the knight again to d7 and must be punished for it. Instead of playing the immediate, uh, you know, this type of deal, which is quite good, I would say, because now you still have h4 coming. Um, we could go f4 here. We could go long castles. We could go knight f4. And it's hard to say. Let's just play this first and see what happens. Hard to say exactly here what is the best. I think if you're going to do this, then f4 is probably even stronger, a little bit more immediate. Long castles here's recommended. Let's see, I'm thinking, yeah, knight, doesn't look well. Maybe that's not so accurate here. D5. Okay, that's tickling the knight, obviously. Now knight G3. I see. So we wanted to get that knight away from the center. That makes a lot of sense. Or knight G1 is very powerful here in this. And now we do go knight F3. King B1, prophylactic, very common in the Sämisch and many other systems for that matter. B3, something like rook E1 or bishop D3 here. Okay, rook D2, bishop's gone. Now we can pretty much almost get these rooks doubled, not quite. E5 for a weakening, well, one or one of the pawns for sure, and E takes F6. Now we can double the rooks. Yeah. And guys, it's resignable now. Black most GMs, if they had this position for black, they would literally throw in the towel either now or 1 to 2 to 3 more moves at the most, because the attack is unstoppable. Now it's bishop takes H7 check. And if that rook takes the rook, well, we'll see what happens. It's not good. And it is just about over. And there's mate. So that would be mate in 37. So that's a pretty terrible attack. But anyways, going back to the game. Let's get back to the game. So we had H4 and we saw black play H5 as a response. Probably, well, it's one of the best responses, but you hate to play this move as black. It's just so weakening to the H file around the king. It's just, H5 needs permanent babysitting, which is going to be very hard to do as white mounts an attack. And so let's see what happens here. White castled, A5, G4 immediately, asking black, what are you going to do? I'm smashing in your door. I'm kicking in the front gate. Black took, and we push here instead of taking back immediately. Black plays the rather innocuous C6. H takes G6. Pawn takes, hitting the knight. We don't really care about the knight. We want that bishop. Takes. Knight G1. Queen takes. E5. Knight F1. Black queen comes to E8. And we take. This is an important take here, guys. In the position, this is far better than any of the other options. It's over 2.5 points better than, well, it's at least a clear point better than second runner-up. So it's very powerful. Pawn takes. Knight G5. King goes to E7. Already, as you can see, it's looking almost beyond repair. Black plays another innocuous pawn move. Bishop E2, threatening obviously to come to H5. First, white is going to check. And here we're going to take the bishop. We're not worried about the queen exchange because of a very nasty fork. And here we want to take with the bishop because we'll remove that knight, give check, take the bishop on c8, check, rook c7, check, bishop check on h5, and we do not go f1, which is an amateur style attempt at giving mate. And that's still going to mate him, but you're wasting moves. The correct move is g1. King comes back to b1, where in a way he probably could have played a prophylactic move earlier and gotten there, but honestly, why waste an attack? Oops, sorry. Sometimes the cursor doesn't, it doesn't move forward in time, and then it double times. Rook f7 check, king e8, and checkmate. That's mate in 36. And I know some of you have questions about some of these moves, so let's try to go back and see if I can't answer at least a few of them. Let's see. Maybe here you're wondering, what if I don't know. What if black played knight f6, for example? Well, then we have either g5 or e5, and actually here, oops, here knight f4 is very, very strong. Now let's see what could happen. G takes h5. Okay. D takes e5. And let's, before we look at that variation, let's see what happens in this variation. Okay, queen comes to g2. Black queen is gone. Threats at nearly everywhere in the position. White is just crawling all up into black's camp. The first rook is gone for black. Black's lost a bishop. Fork, do we really care about it? Nah, not really. We gave up a rook, but black will just not have enough in this position at all to survive. That much is crystal clear. Mm, 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 mm. White king now getting active. Pawns beginning to advance in the center. And very soon, yeah, black's going to come under some type of fork and loosen another piece. There we go. And now black is fighting a queen with one rook. Not a winning combo. We don't really need to be saying this because it's just standard in-game technique that I wish I possessed without the aid of a computer, but I think Capablanca certainly came close, as did Morphy. All of the world champions, for that matter. It wouldn't be fair to say some of them weren't good at in-game technique. Yeah, and you can just trade that off, and obviously the a pawn will queen. I've gone too far. We don't need to see that. Let's back it up again and look at some other potential. Okay, what else? Let's see. Obviously, black. I'm sure you can all see black cannot dream of taking the bishop. Mate would just Oh, we can see that if you want to. It's just ridiculous from that point. And checkmate. So that's a clearly obvious, uh, you know. So what else? Not much. Don't know what else black is supposed to do in a position like this. B6 is a try. But then there's either queen e6 check. C5 is very strong in this position, and knight b5 is maybe not an obvious move because you're thinking that the pawn's just going to take back, and we can see what that will do. If that goes down, then you have queen e6 check. Queen takes b6 check. Queen centralizes back to d6. Knight. Oh, that's a gorgeous move. Black's losing the queen. Oh man, that's just incredible. To wipe out. Black rook is gone. That's just a thing of beauty, honestly. Look at how well white is just coordinating every one of his pieces into the attack. Wow, that is just breathtaking. Mate, and I think even here we had the resource of this. Yeah, and that's a mate as well. Just one move longer. So I think we've seen enough. I just wanted to share that game with you, and we'll run back through it real quick. And if you ever see someone play this wonky knight to h5 after castles, going to go knight e2, and if they come back, even maybe regardless, you're going to centralize usually either on queen c2, queen c1, or queen d2. Those are all power squares in the King's Indian, especially the Sämisch. I think also in the Smyslov. Really, in most kids, in fact, it's usually queen d2 or queen c2. It's occasionally queen c1, depending on the position. So again, this idea of h4, h5 is extremely common in the kid, the King's Indian defense. Regardless of the system you're playing, I don't care if you're playing the bayonet, the four pawns attack, the classical, any of them. But and here the instant g4. Here you could have gone king b1. It's a very very good strong move in this position. Knight f4 is very very reasonable and effective. But g4 is just, I mean, it's just crushing. It's just instantly blowing black up. I mean, even a move like that is just pure money in the bank. I mean, what is black supposed to do here? I mean, let's just pretend. Just, excuse me. Let's just pretend black takes there. And we're going to go knight g1. Queen takes f2. e5 in desperation. d5 closing the center. Innocuous a4, not achieving really anything of merit. Queen g2. Knight a6, obviously playing on the wrong side of the board. And here we can either go prophylactic with the king b1, which is very good, or we can do a3 or bishop e2. And, just, I don't know. I kind of like bishop e2 here. We'll just go bishop e2 and call it a day. I just think it's a little more long-term advantageous because you're getting that bishop on this powerful mini diagonal here, the d1 h5 diagonal, which I think is going to pay some dividends. Yeah, and we always had b3 here in that position, so let's ignore all of that and now commence with the kingside attack. So h takes g6 is the money move, of course. Black desperately brings in the knight to f6. G takes f7, destroying the last pawn in black's camp. Knight f3, or queen g6 is very powerful here. We're going to go... Yeah, let's just go queen g6. That looks a lot more menacing to me. And now we've got knight f3, or d takes c6, or knight h3 are the top three moves in the position. So knight f3 and knight h3 are just about nearly equal, at least in terms of initial depth. What looks slightly better? I could be wrong, but for some reason knight h3 feels a little better to me because I'm leaving the bishop open for attack. Let's do that. Now knight g5, obviously hitting the rook. D takes c6. Queen offering exchanges. We're going to go queen takes e8, offering the exchange. Pawn takes b7. Rook takes d6. That's a power move. Rook to g1, very common in the kid, regardless of system. This g1 square, guys, is very, very powerful for the rooks. Sometimes for the bishops, but especially for the rooks. Certainly for the queen as well, if the queen is still on the board. We're going to pin this bishop, sort of. It's going to move. And now we're going to support the rook with the knight. Okay, instead of taking with the knight, we want to leave this threat on of hitting the black's knight on b4. And this bishop now is free to roam about to a certain extent. I'm going to take with the e-pawn, primarily to strengthen this pawn chain. If we had taken with the c-pawn, which is certainly playable, but now you have a backwards pawn on e4, which is not the star of the show, and also, more importantly though, if you took with this guy, guess what? You just lost your star of the show, one of them at any rate, bishop e2, and you're dead even flat. You now threw away a 2.5 point advantage and are drawing from a crushing position. So do not make gross blunders like that. But even let's say this bishop was somewhere else. Let's, for example, say this bishop were on, I don't know, c8. Then again, you still don't want to weaken long pawn chains unless there was some concrete reason where it gave check, like a double check, like we'll pretend it's on, I don't know, f6, and this move would, give you some kind of stupendous concrete advantage. Then you might want to do that. Short of that, it's always, nearly always better to keep your your pawn line fortified, strengthened, and okay. So enough of that. So black moves e4. We go knight e6, or knight takes e4, or king c2 are all good, very, very powerful moves in the position. We're going to go knight e6 with an obvious double attack on g7. Not a real double attack, but we are pressurizing it, rather to say, because we're not going to actually take it, as that would result in a loss of material. Check means nothing. We're just going to get out of there. g6. Pawn's gone. And let's note that, yeah, in case you're wondering, black obviously cannot take the bishop because the king is in check. Now we're going to check him again. Rook h1 hitting the bishop. Bishop is gone. Another bishop is gone. And in case you're wondering, this move, rook takes, is really bad for black because after the king comes to b3, there are no immediate threats other than the very slow. Oops. Let's just pretend that black wants to take that bishop. Well, after check, and the rook is gone, so that would be just a god awful move. You're getting forked in the worst possible way at the worst possible time. So that is why the knight took. But now we have the delicious bishop c5 check. Rook comes off anyway. Bishop c2. Black's last pawn is gone. Rook is protected. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Bishop centralizing, making it even harder for the knight to go anywhere. In fact, he wants to check and fork. But in truth, I mean, if he goes, he just gets taken. It's a useless move, quite frankly. Yeah, and I mean, look at that. There's no human master on earth that would play this out because they'd just be so frustrated and embarrassed. It would just be beyond ridiculous. And that's actually checkmate. So that wasn't a good move either. Let's just go back now and wrap it up. So one more time, guys, through this game. I'm not recommending that black plays this way, but if they do, this is the response. Now you could have taken, I will say, f takes g is a good strong move in the position. Nothing to be worried about or ashamed about, but h5 is significantly stronger. And again, guys, in blitz, black may not see all the threats. I hope they do, but if they don't, they're getting mated in two. Let's see, I think, yeah. And also, guys, the reason, if you're thinking about an instant rook h8, why that's not so hot, well, then because bishop takes knight on e6, and you've lost a piece for no reason at all. You're probably still winning, but just gave up a significant chunk of your advantage. In fact, let's play that out and see how bad it is. I think it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's still winning, but you just literally lost an instant 14 points of advantage. So the fantasy of a quick mate is now probably long gone. And if you didn't really study the position, I would even go so far as to say that black could probably have at least a small practical chance of equalizing. Not a good one, but a small chance of equalizing, which in this version, black has no chance of equalizing. I mean, zero, absolutely none. In fact, of course, here you could absolutely have played the immediate um, rook d8, and this, I will admit, cedes a good chunk of the advantage, but it's still so powerful that um, black is out of options here because you can just trade rooks, and it is three pieces versus one. I mean, this would all absolutely be resignable, an absolute nightmare. He's gone. So even if you miss the lush checkmate, this, I mean, this is come on, this is absolutely resignable. Black would never play on here. This is just god awful. And there's mate in 44, and that's a slow mate for this line. But if we go back again, obviously, the money shot is you want to take that bishop with the first rook, move down to c7 with check, take with the same rook, check with the bishop, g1, and after that prophylactic, well, not prophylactic, but getting out of the check from the pawn. Check, protected. Obviously, f7 cannot be taken, and that is mate in 36. Guys, keep on playing the Sämisch for white, and I hope you've got some interesting attacking ideas for the next time you face the kid. And don't forget that the King's Indian can be played for white against a variety of openings. It can be played certainly against the King's Indian, against the Grunfeld in many cases, sometimes against the Sicilian, sometimes against the French, and a couple of other systems as well. So keep on playing chess, and I hope you get better, and best of luck to you in your chess journey. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, thanks a lot.